For RCR Wireless News, I'm Sean Kinney, and I'm here with Saul Einbinder of Spirent to talk about what they're seeing at Mobile World Congress and learn a little bit more about the company. So, Saul, maybe you can just tell us a little bit about Spirent and what you do.
Sure, thanks, Sean. So, Spirent provides testing and automation solutions for communications networks. And if you think about like a mobile network, we provide testing solutions for the gear, throughput and bandwidth and security for companies like Cisco. We provide solutions for the operators that build networks out of that gear to test their networks and assure them as they're operating. And in my part of the business, we tend to the end of bringing the users into the network, what we call connected devices, with solutions that focus on device testing and RF testing.
So we're here at Mobile World Congress. We'd be remiss if we didn't talk a little bit about 5G, which has been the dominant theme here. So Saul, What are you seeing relative to 5G?
So I'm pretty much seeing almost nothing but 5G, especially here at Mobile World Congress. 5G looks like it's getting real traction now. It's out of the theory. There's still a ways to go in terms of standards, but enough things have solidified that operators are really doing deployments in 2018 and launching commercial service by the end of 2018. And mobile devices start to show up soon, and so it's getting more and more real. After quite a few years of kind of dreamy state, it's getting traction now.
And so one of the first use cases that's going to come around with these deployments is enhanced mobile broadband, which will obviously have big video implications given the appetite for streaming.
Right.
So tell me a little bit about how a company like Spirent gauges what a good video streaming experience is.
So if I can back up a moment, you said video is important. One of the things that's kind of remarkable when you think about it is, why are all of these companies spending billions of dollars to roll out 5G? After all, everybody's already got a smartphone. So we're projecting, not Spirent, but the industry is projecting very high growth in just the next few years, just the next 3 years, almost 10 times the amount of mobile traffic. What is driving that? It's going to be about 80% video content just within the next couple of years. So that really means that the mobile industry is moving from a phone call business and a data business into a video delivery business. And that's what's caused us in Spirent to say, how is good video quality delivered, and how do we help operators and device vendors assure that the video that they're delivering really meets the customer expectation. That's what customers are buying now.
And so given that dynamic around video consumption and the service of telecom, of providing video quality, what does it mean for service assurance? How do you make sure that you're reducing your risk of churn by providing that quality of network experience?
Right, so what we're looking at is trying to help the operators and device and chipset folks understand how to deliver good video quality and to correlate between video quality and the network performance. How much does the video quality change with more or less bandwidth, for example? And so there are a number of different ways to measure video quality, and we've been innovating in some of those ways. It's in kind of the simplest ways. Let me just look at how much bandwidth, how many packets I'm sending to the end device. But if you're watching, say, Netflix or HBO, that's not really a very good reflection of what the end user is actually seeing on the device. As codecs are getting better and better, that bandwidth consumption changes moment to moment, and it's no longer easy enough to say, oh, well, if I give you 3.4 megabits, you're going to get HD video. That relationship is breaking down very quickly. So what we're doing at Spirent with a new solution called Umetrics Video is, rather than just looking at the data or even looking at video frames, we're looking at the pixels in the same way that a real user looks at their video screen. We're actually evaluating the quality of what they're seeing, giving it a score called a VMOS, a Video Mean Opinion Score, which is correlated to how humans score, how people who watch video really do that scoring. And we do that by looking at the picture frame by frame and looking for the types of artifacts, blockiness and blurriness that would come up if there are issues in the network or if there's not enough bandwidth.
So another thing I wanted to ask you, Saul, is we've discussed sort of the capacity side of 5G, but another big thing here is latency.
Yeah.
And I think as we move into applications like mobile gaming, this will become increasingly pointed. So how do you provide assurance for something like that?
So you're right, latency is important in some specific applications, and 5G has some new very low latency capabilities in some of the new models that'll be coming on. So when we're measuring user experience, some of our solutions are tracking source to destination time, looking at that latency. We'll measure, for example, in a video conferencing application, we'll be looking at voice to video synchronization. Because that's another issue that can crop up. You're watching a movie or you're in a voice chat. If I'm talking and then the video is moving, that can really be disturbing. So we measure those types of KPIs, those types of parameters to help the operators and device folks figure out how well their systems are performing and can perform under load.
So as we go through this rollout of 5G and start to see commercial services, what are some more priorities for Spirent going to be going forward in 2018?
So a few different areas. One is around this whole idea of helping operators not just understand their video quality, but to be able to set policy of how much of their network they need to devote to reach certain video qualities. So that's one area. Another is around some of the new RF challenges. 5G is grappling with how to get a lot more bandwidth through the same amount of air. So one way is a lot of small cells. Another way is by dividing up the air, if you will, into different beams, so that rather than radiating a broad pattern, you radiate narrow patterns. All of that is driving a lot of complexity in antenna and modem design. And so on our RF side, we've got some pretty cool, sophisticated stuff to help folks model what goes on in the air, propagation characteristics, so that they can properly design those antenna systems. Then in the network itself, on the assurance side, we have solutions that help the customer understand, like if they're bringing up a new component in the core, an HSS or something, we do lab simulation of that and load test that. But in 5G, that's not the sort of activity which is, oh yeah, 3 weeks from now I'm going to go turn this up, let me get a maintenance window. With NFV, and that's an on-the-fly dynamic thing. So now our solutions move into a service assurance model, and this is what we've been working with customers on most recently. So all the time, as they're bringing up a new capability anywhere in the network on demand, we're able to go test that for functional and load and do continuous service assurance. And then that's wrapped with analytics, looking at how the network is performing all the time.
I'm curious to learn a little bit more about this idea of continuity of service assurance as an operator moves from a physical to a hybrid to a virtualized network. How do you maintain a granular view as you go through that transition?
Yeah, so you start by making sure that the component, as an operator is putting together their network design, which is of course constantly evolving, they'll typically have lab systems. And what we do is we have software that simulates every part of the network, of the core network, all of the software packages. And so we're able to, for example, say, we can be the software EPC. We'll pretend that we're that, and so we can test everything around it. Or we can go the other way and say, we'll test your EPC, we'll surround it with all of the software. And when I say test it, I mean load test it, performance test it, do negative testing and such. So that's kind of the lab static environment. But then as we move to 5G and start to make some of those components virtual, we have virtual test agents that are deployed, and they get turned on as those components are turned on live in the network just before they go in service. We'll go ahead and do those same types of tests we were doing in the lab, but now on a live network. And then the last part of that is looking at the result of those tests, and then once that service is spun up and is really live, looking at it on an ongoing basis with kind of a hyper dashboard of analytics to help ensure that the quality of service is maintained across the entire solution.
Very good, Saul. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to share your perspective on all these exciting transitions that we're seeing in telecom.
Very good, Sean. Thanks very much.
Thank you.